References. Damn, I love references. And why is that? Well, it's because I can point them out to people who haven't noticed them and then secure myself as a smart individual. But although that is true, on a deeper level, I love references purely for the fact that it shows the passion of the writer. And what do I mean by that? Well, think about it this way. Although some references in anime and manga are purely for comedy, like in Gintama for example, a lot of them are there for basically no reason. For example, most stands in JOJOS are named after bands, songs or albums, and this really doesn't affect the story at all. However, I think we can all agree that stand names are better in part 4 onwards than in part 3. And why is that? Well, it's because we can feel Araki's passion for music through these references, as like I said, references show the passion of a writer. So before we dive deeper into the topic, I just want to ask you to like and subscribe, and also, sorry if the editing ain't too good, it's just my editing skills are a bit trash and I'm on a time crunch to get this video out. And also keep in mind, I am an author myself, so I do kind of have some know-how on this subject, and as such I'm not just an idiot rambling about something I have no experience with. With all that said and done, let's get to discussing references, not only in anime and manga, but in fiction as a whole, but mostly anime and manga. So going back to JOJOs, because it has the best references, it's a series full to the brim with references, not only to music but also to movies, fashion and more music. And why has Araki chose to pay homage to all these random things? Well, it's because Araki enjoys fashion and music and movies. I mean, Wheel of Fortune is inspired by Araki's love of horror movies, and Black Sabbath is based on the story of a black apparition visiting a member of the band Black Sabbath in his sleep, which actually inspired the name Black Sabbath, like the actual band's name. It's a really interesting story. But the point is, especially with that latter example, that's a very niche thing to pay homage to. But the reason Araki did it was purely for the fact that he likes Black Sabbath and wants to write about stuff he likes, hence he adapts the story of a band he likes into his own story. And since all stories are inspired, it makes sense that a writer's inspiration will come from what they enjoy. So stepping back from anime for a bit, I want to talk about my own experiences with references in my own writing, and if you don't care about a YouTuber with less than 60 subs talking about his hobby of writing, then jog on. But first, to add some context, I've written and published half a dozen books, and I think they're all trash. However, for the last year, I've started writing a new book series called Gang, which I do plan on discussing on the channel in the future. And this book series is my stupid attempt to capture the essence of a shonen anime and manga in a written format. So basically I've written a shonen, which probably has been done before, but I ain't personally read any attempts before. And yes, I will get onto references in just one sec, but can I just say, adapting high octane shonen fights into a book is hard. But even harder is adapting shonen comedy, because getting timings right in a book is way harder than in anime and manga, but still I think I made it work. But onto references. My book, as I said, is heavily inspired by anime and manga, so there is a lot of references to it, whether they be intended or not. And especially for the first book in the series, I've also had a lot of inspiration from both Japanese and Arthurian legend. And so, essences of both these mythologies have leaked into my story. And why? Because Japanese folklore and Arthurian legend are both really interesting and I enjoy them, and the stories I read from these mythologies gave me inspiration for plot beats in my own book. So there are characters named after characters from Arthurian legend and swords named after mythological Japanese swords. And my point is that if you aren't familiar with either Japanese folklore or Arthurian legend, you won't understand these references, but this doesn't take away from the story, and that's because references aren't essential to the enjoyment of a piece of work, but they do enhance the enjoyment if you understand them. Going back to my own book series, I have one more example of my own personal use of references. So to avoid spoilers for my book series, I mean it isn't even published yet, I will be brief. So our protagonists are fighting the average shonen villain group, and this group is called White Queen, a reference to the Queen song, and although the meaning of the song does play into the plot of that book, I won't talk about that. And so this villain group is very organised with managers and assistants and whatnot, and it's kind of like a company despite being a drug gang. And everyone in this company have their names and powers inspired by 70s rock bands. And why is this? Well, because the main character at this part of the story is rocking a kind of punk rock inspired outfit, because I like punk rock. And so his speech has a lot of references to punk rock bands and songs like saying, "It's a Green Day" or "You're such a talking head." And why I think this is clever is because punk rock formed to rebel against 70s rock, as it was seen as too commercialised. And so in my story, the main character who represents punk rock is fighting against an organised company that is named after a song from one of the greatest 70s rock bands, and has all its members named after 70s rock bands. And also the fact that it's one character against the whole company again mirrors how punk rock was all done by garage bands against giant companies. And the best part is that you don't need to know any of that to enjoy my story. I mean, I hope so. But if you do understand all the references, then your experience will only be enhanced, as you will feel my own passion for both punk rock and 70s rock. So yeah, I'm a pretty good author. But back to anime, as this is an anime channel after all. Marshall D. Teach from One Piece is based on the real life pirate Blackbeard. Wow, what a great reference. It must mean that Oda likes pirates or something. Okay, sorry for that strange ending. But like I said earlier, I'm in a time crunch to get this video out, and I hope I got my point across anyway. Do the usual like, comment, subscribe, and follow my Twitter, which is on screen now. And if you have any questions or video ideas, then put them down in the comment section below, because I'll be fine to chat with you. And with all that said, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I am signing out. Damn, this video better not take long to edit, because this is a time crunch.